and this is Sy's Green Scene. Thank you for viewing with us today. We are happy to be here as we spring forward into this new, wonderful and burgeoning environment of environmental sustainability. Today, my guest is Louise McCurry. Hello, Louise.
Hello.
So thank you so very much for coming.
It is my honor.
Thank you. So Louise and I have worked together in the field of sustainability, cleaning and greening, park advisories for more than a decade. She is a very special and favored person to me, and she has quite an extensive knowledge of our communities and our environments. So today we're going to talk about Earth Day, what it means to us as a city, and what it means to us as a nation as we try to move towards sustainability in a more comprehensive way. So, Louise, what I'd like to start by asking you is to share with our audience all of the different types of organizations that you work with, because I can't just name one, the Jackson Park Conservancy. We are on that board together, but let's talk about all of the organizations that you're with.
It's a wonderful story, and the idea is that Jackson Park is this amazingly special place that has the ability to absorb children and sports and animals and nature all in one spot. So we started out many years ago just trying to clean up the park so that it was great for children's playgrounds and building new playgrounds. I organized youth soccer, and so we had to have 1,100 kids who play youth soccer in the park because, again, it's running, it's playing, it's chasing a ball, it's getting kids out in green space, getting parents out in green space. It's an awesome story. And then we moved into working on trying to fix the parts of the park that needed help. There's a program called the Shackman Decree, which in fact was put together because Southside Parks didn't get the money that Northside Parks got. And they proved that in court in the early 80s and said we were going to make sure that both Southside and Northside Parks get equal money, equal funding, and equal attention.
That's correct. So with the parks, you work with the Midway Plaisance, which is where soccer takes place. So soccer is on the Midway Plaisance. But
And Jackson.
And Jackson. What's the name of the organization?
American Youth Soccer Organization, AYSO.
Okay. So.
And then we, I started 9 different packs, just because the idea is there are lots of parks, but unless you have someone paying attention and taking time to look at what needs to be repaired and reporting that, making sure that the activities are going on, making sure engagement and education are happening, parks don't bring people in. So you want to make sure that your parks have an active organization. So in our parks, we have a PAC for almost every park in the area.
So can you explain to our audience what a PAC is?
Good. PACs are these wonderful groups of human beings who come together to say, let us improve our park. Let's make this park great for our community. What we know is that parks increase the property value of housing around it by at least 20%. So if you've got an active, busy park with an active, busy PAC,
which is a park advisory council,
then you've got wonderful things happening for your kids and your families. And that's why PACs become this special place where ideas take place and where you can talk to the park district and make wonderful new classes and new playground equipment and new sports equipment that you wouldn't get otherwise.
So you have always been an active member of the Midway Plaisance Park Advisory Council, the Jackson Park Park Advisory Council, the South Shore Cultural Center Advisory Council, and
Nichols
Park,
Cornell. Stout, and Harold Washington.
So just for point of reference, for those of you who are listening, these are Southeast Side parks. One of the largest parks that you might be familiar with is Jackson Park, but also Washington Park, which is adjacent to the University of Chicago. And so you know that land around there as it is right across from the DuSable Museum, which of course we now call the DU. So what I'd like to talk to you about in particular, Louise, is the sustainability of our parks and our environmental system that is connected to it.
And it's a very interesting question to ask because not all parks are sustainable, and that's been because of the lack of care. And so a lot of the Southside parks weren't initially sustainable, but in fact, now we've gotten a group of people who are looking at water runoff, who are looking at soil erosion, who are looking at lakefront erosion, who are looking at planting native species as opposed to planting whatever you got out of the local garden store, and making sure that those plants and those trees can survive. What we know is that an oak tree can manage to live about 700 years if it's taken care of. We know that a maple tree can do 300 years. And so if you plant trees that are sustainable, they can then become the home for hundreds and hundreds of animals and critters. That's the goal.
As we speak about trees, people are not able to easily identify trees like oak trees. And what I do think they can identify easily is the cherry blossom tree. And Jackson Park has quite the event every year where people come from all over the country to look at our cherry blossoms. Can you share a little information about that?
So it's a really important thing to say that the Anami Festival, which is the whole cherry blossom festival, is a way to say winter is finally over and spring is coming. So we planted 300 cherry trees. When it's good weather, those cherry trees do really, really well and bring pink color to the whole park. And people come from all over the world for the Hanami Festival. It's a great place to honor, in fact, that whole transition. You made it through the winter and you're about to go out in spring and plant your crops. Our Hanami Festival, we have docents who work in the gardens that talk to people and explain to people the story of Hanami, that bringing new life into the area. Once you get that established, then you can say, this is one park that's doing that. Wouldn't you guys like to try that? So we become the group that help people begin to look at ways to plant trees, including cherry trees, but trees that will survive in their parks all over the world.
Absolutely. So, what is a docent?
So docents are educators. Your teachers. And so the idea is that if you come to a new place, you want somebody to help you know where you are, what the place is about, and why it's important that they're there. And once they feel the understanding clearly why they're there, people come back year after year after year. So for our Hanami Festival, people come back year after year. For our Garden of the Phoenix, people come back week after week because they know why they're there and it becomes a special place.
So explain a little to them about the Garden of the Phoenix, which is absolutely amazing. It's so stunning.
So it's a really important space to actually think about where we are as a diverse culture. When we came together for the World's Fair of 1893,
yes,
most of the folks in the world had seen no one Japanese because Japanese had been closed off from the world for 200 years. Japanese got the money in for the World's Fair, so they got the first space there, which was this beautiful, beautiful island called the Wooded Island. They built a temple called the Temple of the Phoenix. And the Phoenix was a story of coming back from destruction. So just like Chicago had burned down in 1871, there wasn't much left, and so we got the fair because that was a way to do that. But more get some money coming in. But also in Japan, they had been at war, and so we were both coming back from destruction. And the Phoenix is that symbol of the bird that burns up and then comes back to life again. If you've watched Harry Potter, you know the Phoenix. But that's why the Japanese to this day are still, 135 years later, still working to keep improving and adding to the Garden of the Phoenix.
And they do. They come often. Yoko Ono actually, though she's not Japanese.
Is she?
She is? Oh, she is Japanese.
She lived in Tokyo during World War II.
Okay, all right. So Yoko Ono did a statue. Can you tell us a little bit about that statue?
So the idea is that during World War II, children in Japan lived underground in railroad stations. Yoko Ono was 5, her brother was 4. They were forced to leave San Francisco or go into concentration camps in the U.S. They chose to go back to Japan. She lived in Tokyo underground, and so each day at the end of the bombing, she and her brother would come out of the shelters, and the brother was crying and tearful, and she said, the sun will come out and chase away all the darkness. So Sky Landing is the story of the sun landing on the earth, this wonderful lotus blossom, which is the symbol of peace, world peace, came out with that whole sensation of the sun will come out and bring peace to the earth. And so people come from all over the U.S. to see these lotus blossoms. Yoko has come several times just to visit and see the crowds, is really, really pleased and happy. But it's the idea of peace, and so she goes around the world establishing centers where we can celebrate world peace. There are over 3,200 of them around the world. We're just the only land-based sculpture she's done anywhere in the world.
I think that is so important that if you are interested in the environment and what goes on in the park systems around you, there is so much to offer just by driving by, walking through, of course. But if you have not experienced this, be a visitor in your own city. You know, be that tourist that says, I'm going to see how many parks I can check off on my list, and take your children and just go out and explore those sites. Now, mind you, people fly in, people travel for hours and hours to come and see what is readily available to us right here. So Louise and I were having a conversation a little earlier about being an environmentalist in this city, in the world. So I'm going to let Louise talk to you about what it means to be an environmentalist and why you're an environmentalist by default.
It's a really special, wonderful thing to consider the fact that the world depends on us, and that each person in the audience is important to keeping the world healthy and alive. If you breathe, you're an environmentalist because you're breathing in the air. The air is produced by all the plants and all the companies, all the factories. So when I first came to Chicago, the air was black. Literally, the soot was so bad that if you opened your window, the soot came in and it was in your lungs. We worked in the late 60s, early 70s to just get the factories to cover their smokestacks and to clean their air. And now the air downtown as well as the air around the city is safe. Daniel Burnham, who built the high-rises for the World's Fair, had really severe lung disease because initially his offices were downtown. He breathed in all the soot, all the really bad air, and had got really severe COPD, really severe lung disease. So breathing good air keeps you alive and healthy. So if you breathe, you're an environmentalist because no one wants to breathe dirty air. And so the kinds of things we do to try to make cars put out less
emissions, yes.
It's all huge. And changing from fossil fuels to other kinds of energy is really important. So electric cars is really huge. Making sure that our parks and our buildings are not heated by fossil fuels. All those things make it easier to breathe. And if you breathe, you're an environmentalist. If you're not breathing, you're dead. So if you breathe, you're an environmentalist. So everybody's an environmentalist.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you've done today is you've brought some props here to talk about what it means to save our environment, to keep our environment clean, as well as what we're going to be doing around the city and actually nationwide. Saturday, April 20th is Earth Day. And it's where organizations all around the world come together to be meaningful in trying to clean up the areas and the spaces that we live and breathe in on a regular basis. No one wants to go to the park and step on a broken plastic cup. No one wants to have to pull plastic bags out of the sand to create a spot for them to lie at. So let's talk a little bit about Earth Day and what we're doing here with this cleaning.
So it's really exciting. Remember that when I was a child in the 50s and 60s, people didn't really care what they did to the environment, what they did to the air. And now suddenly, a wonderful man named Dr. Seuss, you may have heard of. Dr. Seuss wrote all these wonderful books about taking care of the environment. I brought this one from the Museum of Science and Industry today, which says, What the Humming Fish Wish. And it's all about what you as a kid, what you as an adult can do to take care of the environment. So we talk about using reusable grocery bags, making sure that you use less plastic, making sure that you, in fact, are helping conserve the water by taking shorter showers and not wasting water. Reusing your plastic straws. My hat is a really wonderful hat made of plastic straws. They picked up the plastic straws and made hundreds of hats that, for me who wears a hat outside always, it's a really wonderful way to remember that we're in charge of our environment. For Earth Day in Chicago, we're doing Earth Day all over the city because we're pretty good at it now. Jackson Park, we really want to be involved in making it a special day. So we're meeting on Saturday the 20th from 10 to 12:30 at the parking lot at 63rd and Cornell, which is the south bridge of the Garden of the Phoenix. And so we'll have about 300 people there from the Obama Foundation, from the from our Chicago Parks Foundation, and then from the Conservancy. And the idea is to do some education first and explain to people why it's important to clean up our environment and why it's important to have people there. And then we'll have varieties of jobs for everybody to do, from mulching around trees to building in wood chip paths to picking up all the garbage around the paths. And it's really important. Just in 10 minutes this morning, I walked down my block. I picked up an Easter bag full of what was used to be Easter eggs. Somebody's last night's beer. I picked up the plastic cup from a famous restaurant. I picked up, 25 to 30 of these that were simply blown around. And finally, because I live in a street with 5 really fine restaurants, lots of takeout boxes. Each of these are recyclable. And the idea is that if instead of throwing them out your car window, we clean them up, we would be able to actually use all of this to make things like hats or coats or jackets, things that we could reuse. So for Earth Day, we're going to, first of all, hands-on, getting out, cleaning up, picking up, making it better. And then on Sunday at 3 o'clock, we are really excited because 15 years ago, we put together this wonderful thing called the Wooded Island. We took out all the invasive species that didn't grow and planted species that would grow. And so Russell Hyrick, who helped organize, design, and do the planting, is coming out on Sunday at 3 o'clock, again at the South Gate, to take everybody for a tour of these incredible plants, how they live, how we take care of them, so that you can know what to do in your own home. So it's our contribution this year to say both educating and doing hands-on cleanup. I'm really excited because it's a combination of people who've been doing this alone for a while. The Obama Foundation does amazing work. Their plan is to put together, for their energy, to be able to use energy that's not dealing with fossil fuels, and take the runoff from the park and turn that into black water so we can use it to water our plants, water our flowers, and take care of the environment. So it's a really wonderful way to put that group together. Chicago Parks Federation, we've been doing for the last 5 years. It's called It's Your Park Day in June, which is coming up in a couple of months, and then cleaning up your park twice a week. And so we do work days in our park, having everybody come out and just clean up and take care of the park. And then it's just that whole opportunity to bring people from the neighborhood to join together with our partners and have the joy of working together. If you're alone, you don't enjoy it. If you're alone, you feel like, why am I doing this? But if you're working with a whole team, that team makes it fun to do the work together. So that's what we're doing.
I think that it's very important that we look at how we're living in our spaces. There are some events that you probably have attended in Jackson Park for decades, like the House Music Festival, or you enjoyed going to the 63rd Street Beach, which I grew up going to, as well as going to play basketball across the street. Mm-hmm. And so in order to keep these areas clean and green and active, we have to participate. So it's really a good thing to consider looking up what it means to be a member of your park district and your park advisory council. So we take our kids to the park and we enroll them in a lot of the programs that they have at the different park districts. So what part can you play while your child is at play? Consider being a part of the Park Advisory Council, having a voice in what you would like to see in terms of programming for your children, programming for yourself. You may want to do line dancing there. Do you have enough friends that you can say, hey, can we have this class here, and make it a part of the programming? as we get out to clean, we don't just remove plastic bags. That's really important. But what also is important is that we pick up the downed sticks, the large tree branches, because it impedes the way when our city workers are trying to mow the lawn. And so if there's a big bunch of them, or if they're in the way, then they just mow around them, because it is too taxing for them to keep jumping off of their lawnmower. And it can also be dangerous to move these branches. So even if you're not a part of an organized activity, this is something that you can always do that's going to impact your park. Another thing that we would ask you to never do is when barbecuing in the park, please don't dump your coals near the tree base. It's like setting the roots on fire. It kills the tree slowly and painfully. And that may be the very tree that blows down and falls on your car when you're driving by. And we wouldn't want that now, would we? So as we talk about these things, I really want to specifically encourage you to be a part of, what's the name of our event for the 20th?
Earth Day for Jackson Park Conservancy and the Parks Foundation and the Obama Foundation. So we're a team. We're working together.
Exactly. So get out, come and see what we're going to be doing. See what that park has to offer. If it's not close enough to you, go to the park in your area. Go online and see if the playground or the park or your aldermanic office is having a clean and green in your community. It's your Earth Day, much like the solar eclipse. Is a way to remind you that we are here on this planet as visitors, and things change. So if we don't take care of the things down below, the things up above can have a negative impact. Anything from, excess storms, tornadoes, those things. So it's really, really important to be a part of something so small but so big. Louise, I'd really like you to finish up by telling us what you encourage. As a person who's been working in the parks for more than 50 years, tell us what you think here.
I'm so glad you asked that question. I think it's really, really, really important that everybody take a walk to your nearest park. What we know is that parks are the answer to global warming. We know that if you can in fact have an active green park, that we can affect the temperatures of cities. We know that the temperature around parks is actually people use less air conditioning because of the amount of trees and bushes and grass. So go to your local park. We will try to create a park that's 10 minutes away, a 10-minute walk from everybody's house. And so people can walk to their park and make a difference. If your park is dirty and your park is not green, it's because somebody hasn't been doing the work around there, and that somebody is probably you. So take responsibility. It is your park. We have It's Your Park Day coming up in June. It's your park. Children who come to parks come because they want to play in a safe place. But adults come to parks too. And the cool thing is that when you come to a park, you've got that wonderful chance of tree bathing. So as you walk through, you take deep breaths and you enjoy the joy of walking through space that calms you down, drops your blood pressure, drops your heart rate so you physically feel better. Parks make you healthier.
Absolutely.
And that's the name of the game.
Absolutely. What you're looking at here are some fragrant blossoms from a plant from my backyard. It makes this whole space smell like a natural perfume factory. If you live in an apartment, plant some mint and put it in your windowsill. If you have a yard, plant something that's going to attract bees and butterflies. The birds and the bees, they actually do more than just tell a story. They actually help us pollinate and keep our environment safe. It's a wonderful thing every time you see a butterfly. Please plant a butterfly garden. If you're interested, you can go on Google and it'll give you the instructions and the directions for everything that you need to plant. If you don't have a house plant, clean the air in your house and put a house plant in your home. But more than anything, consider coming out and doing your share for Earth Day, even if it's just in your front yard, your backyard, around your property, on your block. We encourage you to come out to Jackson Park. We encourage you to sign up. You'll be able to find all of that information on Meadows Eastside's Community Resource Organization's website. That would be www.meadowseastside.org. You can also go to the Obama Foundation's Obama OPC website, and there is a link for you to sign up there. And if you need to reach out to get any additional information, please feel free to call us at 773-540-8659. Earth Day is a way for you to embrace the earth that you live on, to ensure sustainability for the future, for your children, for your grandchildren, for your family, for your pets, for every breathing human being, for every breathing thing. This is your way to be an active environmentalist. You can't get away from it. Every time you take a breath, you just become an environmentalist. So thank you again, and thank you so very much, Louise.
Pleasure.
We hope that you'll come back and we
Pleasure,
can talk more about sustainability. We talked a lot about our parks today, but I'd really like to have a conversation about our wet spaces, about the lagoon in Washington Park, and of course our beaches, and how important that sustainability is. And how
We are so lucky in
advocating-
Chicago. We are really, really lucky. It's all here.
Absolutely. But in order for it to stay here and to stay healthy, we have to advocate for it, and we also have to ensure that we participate. Thanks again. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful spring day. See you.